Welcome back to the vlog. Thanks for tuning in today. We are going to be at Capital Casino in the 1-3 game. It's going to cover a couple days worth of poker playing. I took the highlights of the week and kind of compiled them all in one vlog so you get the full impact of all the interesting hands without any of the boredom. So sit back, relax, enjoy. Here it comes. We sit down in the 1-3 game, buy in for 500. First interesting hand, I'm in the big blind with 2-3 suited. A middle position opens for a raise to 13. A bunch of people call. I decide to throw in the extra $10, hoping to hit something good on this flop. The flop comes ace, jack, 5 with one heart. So I got a gutter to the nuts and backdoor flush draw. Person to my direct left bets $20 and we get a string of callers for the $20. So when it gets to me, I can click in 20 bucks and have a chance to win a pretty good sized pot. I don't think I can pass this up. So I put in the 20 and we see a turn card of a 3 of diamonds. Not what I was looking for. Was thinking of a 4 of hearts. Player to my left bets again, this time for 40. We get a couple players folding and then the person on the button puts in the call. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, is 2 pair good here? Probably not. Is trips good here? Most likely. And a 4? Yeah, I definitely think a 4 would be good here. So I think I have 6 clean outs. It's kind of a loose call on my part. But you know, it just seems like I'm due. So I think for a while, and I was watching the guy in the button, and he was staring me down. So I'm not sure what that's all about. I don't know whether he was afraid I was going to raise or hoping I would call. Anyway, I ended up putting in the call and we get to see a river card of a 7 of hearts. So we brick out, don't make anything, feel a little silly for putting $70 worth of chips into this pot when I could have just folded pre-flop. Player to my left now bets out $200. Very large bet. He's really going polar on this one. So I really don't think he is representing anything other than 2 pair. I mean, he has to have that or maybe he has nothing. Player on the button thinks he has a better hand than he does, so he puts in the $200. And I'm just thinking to myself, what could these guys have? I mean, I don't think the person to my left has 2 pair or better. And the other person, wow, I mean, and he's still looking over at me. I'm just folding, getting out of the way. I think the guy in the button might have something big. First person throws ace 10 for a pair of aces, and the other one turned the straight with the 4 deuce. So he had the same idea I did. I like the way he played that hand. I decided to raise from middle position with 9-10 of clubs. I get a few callers behind me, so we're going to end up going 4 ways to a flop with 64 in the pot. Flop is not bad, but not great either. It comes 8-6-3 with 1 club. So I got a gutter with 2 overcards. I decided to check it because I saw the person to my left start grabbing his chips. So I decided to check and let him bet it, see what happens. The other 2 players end up folding, and here I'm on the fence. I can either put in the call and with 2 overs and a gutter, and maybe with some scare cards that can come. I decided to do it. The person's stack isn't really big enough for me to do this. I think overall this is a losing proposition. The turn card comes as an ace of diamonds, perfect scare card. I go ahead and I just jam to put them all in, put the pressure on a hand like a lone 8. He thinks for a while, and finally he decides to show that he's folding at 8 face up, and we get this little bluff through. I look down at ace king under the gun, open for a raise to 15. I get a caller from a player on my direct left and one from the player on the button. Now the small blind, who is a knowledgeable player and can play very aggressively at times, decides to raise to 105. Now the sizing seems a little big for me if he had like a real value hand like aces or kings. or even queens. I don't think he would go this large. So for me, it feels like jacks or tens. And me being an undergun opener, I figure I can really put the pressure on. So I put my stack in, and the player on the button actually spends some time thinking about it. So he probably had a fairly good hand himself. He eventually ends up folding, and it's back over to the player in the small blind. Now, as I said before, he's knowledgeable, and he might be priced in with whatever hand he has. If he has queens, he's definitely calling. Queens plus, he's definitely calling. But the jacks and the tens, they might find some percentage of laydowns. And that's what I'm really hoping my jam accomplishes. If I can get someone to lay down 25% of the time with his tens and maybe even 10% of the time with his jacks, I think this bet is a plus EV. He ends up tossing in the call, so now we're basically flipping. He has a slight edge if he has a pair. He could have a hand like ace queen where I'm way ahead, but when the flop comes queen queen 6, I'm pretty sure I'm dead. I show the ace king and he shows pocket tens. So I have one of those hands that I thought I can get him to fold tens, maybe up to 25% of the time. This is like the 75% of the time he decided to call. So it is what it is. A round or two later, I look down at ace king again, opened for 15. The player in the cutoff said he was going to go in blind, and sure enough, that's what he does. He puts in $96. So I flick in the call. There's no way I'm getting away from this. The guy wants to gamble. I'm definitely going to be playing with him. Flop comes queen high. Turn is the king. So I just tell him I have a king and rolled it over. And now he decides to peek at it. First one he turns over means he's drawn dead. So obviously he was there to gamble. Here I'm on the button with ace-10 offsuit. I usually would prefer to raise with this, but we got a bunch of limpers, so I just decided just to limp behind. Play it cautiously. Flop comes 10-4-3 rainbow. Excellent flop for ace-10. It gets to the person in the low jack, and they put out a fairly sizable bet of $25. Makes me think they have a hand like king 10, maybe queen 10, something they feel needs protection. And with ace 10, I'm just going to put in the smooth call and evaluate the turn. Turn card is a 7 of clubs, so the 5-6 gets there, but and the backdoor flush draw. But other than that, it shouldn't really affect too much. He leads again, this time for 35. I can't get away from this. I think that I still have all those hands I said earlier beat. Now the river card comes as a queen of spades, and he thinks for a moment and then puts out a smallish bet of $25. So now I feel like I'm starting to get milked here. I'm worried that he might have something like queen 10, or maybe he had a set that he flopped with like threes or fours. Anyway, he ends up showing pocket jacks. So I got very much owned on this hand. Most people don't realize it takes about 8 hours to make one of these vlogs. It only takes you a couple seconds to like and subscribe. So I'll put my time in if you put yours in. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your support. The game's playing a little short. I'm in the big blind with ace-4 suited. There was a couple limpers. I decided to try to steal this thing for $25. First person who limped decides his hand was good enough to play for his entire stack once I raised, but wasn't good enough to raise once he first came in. Anyway, he's all in for like $92 or something like that. And I already got 25 invested, cost me 60 something more. So I'm getting a 2-to-1 on my ace high. I flip it in. Flop comes ace high. That's good. Turn card gives me a flush draw. River card bricks out, but he had 2 9s, and I take this one down with my ace. We're short-handed with a $10 straddle. I look down at 2 9s and decide to raise to 25. The player on my direct left, who is a vlog supporter and watcher, he thinks 25 is not quite big enough. He makes it 85. Now he seems to know what he's doing around the poker table and has been very active, but has shown down a lot of big hands at the same time. So it's really hard to say whether he's doing this with a premium or whether he's making a move against a vlogger. Anyway, it gets folded back around to me. I think it's way too optimistic to put in a 4-bet at this point, and I can't really fold, so that this leaves the option of calling. It's going to cost me $60 more, and for a $180 pot, I don't think that's too bad of a deal. Looking for a flop with some small cards. I put them more on the range of ace-king, ace-queen type of hands than, say, aces or kings or queens. Flop comes awful. King, queen, deuce with 2 clubs. So if he had the hands I think he had, like ace-king, ace-queen, he definitely has me beat. If he happened to have jacks or tens or anything else, any pair other than that, he had me crushed anyway. So really not much I can do here. I just have to give it up. And I asked him later, and he did say he had ace-king on this particular hand. I missed the first part of this hand. There was a couple limpers. I'm in the small blind. I raised to 21, and I get called in 2 spots. So we're going to go 3 ways to a flop with 63 in. And the flop is queen, jack, 8 with 1 heart. So good flop for my hand. I bet out 20. The player to my left instantly raises to 50. This is the very active player, so I think I'm probably up against a hand like a lone queen, maybe something like a king queen or maybe a queen 10. Now the next player, who's a more conservative player in the hijack, he decides that neither one of our bets are big enough, and he's going to raise again. So he makes it 145. And as I said, this is a tough spot I'm in now. I don't really care for my hand. I got bottom 2 pair, and I'm thinking, what hands will he be doing this with? I don't think he has any sets because he didn't raise. So I'm thinking queen jack or 9-10. Either one of those has me crushed. So I go ahead and I make the fold. The player on my left goes into the tank. Not quite sure what he has. I think any kind of lone pair has to be a fold in this spot. Maybe he has a hand such as like king 10 where he flopped an open-ender and was trying to buy a cheap card. Anyway, he thinks for quite some time before I end up putting in the call. Turn card comes is a 9 of clubs, probably the worst card for me and probably not that good for the player to my left. He checks, the player jams, and we get a quick fold. The player later said that he had a straight. We have a limp from an early position player. I raised to 20 with ace-king offsuit. The player to my direct left raises to 55. He is the action player who has been playing very aggressively over the last hour or so. Everyone else folds and it comes back around to me. I'm definitely going to put in the 4-bet. I make it 160, which I think is a little bit too small. I should probably go somewhere between 180 and 200. My opponent goes into the tank right now. He's trying to figure out whether I have a real hand or maybe making a move on him. Obviously I have a real hand. That's all I play. I only play the nuts. Remember that. Every time I raise, fold, please. Anyway, after thinking for some time, he decides that he's willing to go with his hand and throws in a chip for an all-in. I put in the quick call, and he says, oh, I hope you only have tens or jacks. So maybe he has a hand like ace-queen or ace-king, and he has a couple overcards like me. We see a flop of 10 high. River card is a jack, not my favorite river. He says any pair's good. I show him that I had ace-king. He had ace-queen and lets it go. It's always nice when the chips are heading in your direction. Ace-king finally stood up for a decent-sized pot, and I'm happy to take this one down. This is the start of my following day. There was one early position limper. I have king queen offsuit raised to 20, and I get a caller from the player in the big blind, and the initial limper actually folds. So we're heads up to a flop with 44 in the pot. Flop comes 9-7 jack with 2 hearts. So this absolutely hits my opponent's range and does nothing for me. So when check 2, I'm just going to check this back and take a free card. And what a free card it was. It was a 10 of diamonds on the turn. Now my opponent bets out $55. Obviously he has a powerful hand. I'm thinking it probably contains an 8. And I'm just going to call, even though there's 2 flush draws on the board. I am going to slow play this. I'm just hoping for a clean river, and we get the 6 of clubs. So perfect river card, shouldn't change anything. If he has an 8, he's still going to be firing. He decides on a sizing of $60. It's his trying to get a little call from someone who doesn't have what I have. And it's, you know, perfect. He has about $150 behind. I think I just need a jam, try to get it all in there. I put in the jam. He sounds a little disappointed that I did that. He's thinking, would you slow play king queen? He goes, I don't think I can get away with this or get away from this. Eventually he puts in the call. I show him the bad news, and he was not pleased, but he's a super nice guy, and I'm sorry it was against him. I've been card dead most of the day, but when I do pick up a hand, it's really a premium hand. So this is a perfect example. Probably haven't played a hand in like 30 or 40 minutes. Now I get kings on the button. Player opens for a raise to 15. Another player calls to 15. I make it 40, and both players end up putting in the call. So we're going to go 3 ways to a flop with 124 in the pot. Just looking for a clean flop with no ace in it. Flop ends up coming 10-6-5 with 2 hearts. So I love the 10 high board. No straight possibility, but there are a lot of potential draws out there. Both players check it over to me, and I'm going to have to make a little bit larger continuation bet than normal. I'm really trying to price out some of those draws if they happen to have them, because if they're coming, they're going to be paying. Anyway, first person folds. Next person has a shorter stack. He has probably about 140, 150 in front of him. And I don't mind if he stuffs it. I'll be calling right away. He thinks for a while and also decides on a fold, so I'm happy to take down this pot. It's not much, but it's better than losing with kings. Again, I was card dead for a while, but I happened to wake up with 2 aces in the small blind. It's always nice to find aces in your blinds. So I make it 21. I end up getting 2 callers. So we're going to go 3 ways to a flop with 66 in the pot. And flop comes ace, king, jack, rainbow. So pretty much a perfect flop. I c-bet for 20. I get 1 caller from the player in the hijack. The player on the button quickly puts in the fold. Turn card comes is a 3 of hearts. So now there's a backdoor flush draw. I'm going to size up just a little bit. I'm not going to give him a cheap draw at a straight. As soon as I start grabbing my chips, he looks like he's going to fold, and he quickly lets it go, and we take another small pot down. And for our final hand, I look down at 2 queens under the gun, raise to 20. I get a bunch of callers for the 20. The game has been very active. The button decides to jam his stack. He has about $160 in front of him. He has been fairly conservative, hasn't made any kind of wild moves, and I'm a little concerned that he has a hand like aces or kings. I mean, as I said, he hasn't made a move all day long, but with all that dead money in there, even if I happen to be against aces or kings, I think I'm just going to have to stick it in here. So I rejam to isolate him just in case he has a hand like jacks or tens. I don't want one of the other players to get in there with a weak ace. He told me he had a medium pair. I told him I had queens. So we just roll them over and see how they run out. Flop comes ace, queen, 4. So we pretty much lock this one up fairly quickly. Later on, we went over to the 2-5 game, which was playing 2-5-10 at the time. I didn't vlog it. I needed to concentrate on the actual game. There are a lot of good players in there, and I am outclassed, I would say. The good players really know how to put pressure on a pot, and if you're not fully bankrolled, it is a terrifying situation to be in. I happened to get lucky enough to pick up aces in one pot and get it all in pre-flop, and they did hold up, so we did book a little win. Thanks for watching, guys. Really do appreciate your support. If you're going to be in the Sacramento area on July 24th, we are having our meetup game at Capital Casino, 2 p.m. start time. There are going to be a lot of good vloggers there, and it'll be even better event if you were there. So there is a sign-up board on Poker Atlas, or you can call the casino and they can sign you up directly. And looking forward to seeing you. If for some reason you cannot make it and would like to meet me or play with me at some other time, I am at Capital Casino Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. You can usually find me in the 1-3 or 2-5 game, and sometimes you'll find me in a 4-8 or an Omaha game. And for those of you who like to see what I look like when I'm all dressed up and running a tournament, I do the Sunday 10 a.m. tournaments at Capital Casino. It's a $60 buy-in with a $50 rebuy. And it starts at 10 a.m., as I said before, and I run around making rebuys, decisions, and consolidating tables, and you get to see what I look like when I'm working instead of when I'm like playing poker. Anyway, thanks for watching. Really do appreciate your support. Hope to see you on the 24th for the meetup game. And until then, good luck at the tables.